everyone, it is story time week on Our Mains, and I am taking care of 2 dogs right now. They leave today, but they really like being around people. This one's named Athena, and she's like a miniature husky. And there's another one that's over there. He's probably gonna come out in frame. His name's Ralphie. He's a mutt. He's very, very cute. But if you see them like walking and, you know, doing all this, I'm sorry. I can't really get them to like sleep, especially when I'm like on the floor, but they're just gonna be a part of my embarrassing life story. So this story happened to me in middle school, and it is something that I did that was one of the stupidest things I have ever done. And it was basically a reflection of how bad I was with dating and why I was single basically all the way until high school. And I'm gonna get into that story right now. When I was in the 6th grade, I was just starting to get the kind of concept of having a crush on a human being. And this human being happened to be in my 4th grade science class. Now, when I was in middle school for the 6th grade, I was in all honor classes because my dad thought that I was gonna be like some future really good science major, but that was definitely not the case. However, that's what he thought, so I was with a lot of different people, new people that I didn't know, and I got disconnected from a lot of old friends. When I walked into Mrs. Burns' classroom, that's the name of my teacher, I'm gonna give the boy that I'm talking about a different name, but if you're a close friend of mine, you probably know about this kid, because I've told this story because it's funny. I walked into 4th period, and I didn't even notice the kid at first, but he was sitting the seat behind me. So I was sitting in the 1st row, 1st seat, and he was sitting in the 1st row, 2nd seat. And the teacher that I had, she's very strange, by the way, very peculiar. I'll never forget her because she was like really strict, but in a very weird way. She asked us, well, make sure to look behind you so that you can see who's sitting behind you, so you can see like if they're too small so they can see the board and all that kind of stuff. So I turned around with my big curly long hair, did a little bit of this, and lo and behold, there was this kid who I will call Charlie. Now, Charlie was a short kid. He was shorter than me, and he had like crutches at the time, and he had like black hair and blue eyes and freckles, and I was like, oh, okay. But then I turned around again, and I did like this stupid double take moment where my hair was creating some kind of gravitational force field whip, basically. And I thought, oh my god, this kid is so cute. He is so cute. I immediately developed a really stupid, regrettable crush on Charlie. I remember he told me, he was like, oh no, it's fine, it's fine. And he did like this weird, I'm a football player chuckle, like, what? What? Hi. And it was that moment that I developed this major crush on him. This dog wants to play right now. I can't play with you right now, Ralphie. The following days coming up to this, I tried to find out what this kid's name was. So I literally asked somebody sitting diagonal from me in the back, so like, what's his last name? After I found out what this kid's name was, I looked him up on Facebook. Sorry, Ralphie. I looked him up on Facebook, and I decided to add him as a friend and stalk him majorly. Now, if you're not familiar, in 2011, Facebook kind of like blew up more than usual, and every middle schooler had a Facebook. And if you didn't have a Facebook and you didn't have a bedazzled iPhone 4 Zebra OtterBox phone case and didn't take selfies like this, you weren't cool. And guess what? I wasn't cool. I was not cool at all. I had a slide-up phone. So then I decided to private message him, and I was like, oh, you know, what do you like, blah, blah, blah. And then once I was finished talking to him, once I finished my, what I felt was perfect compatibility acting, I asked him, hey, do you want to go out with me? I remember when I asked this, I like closed my netbook and I ran upstairs and I was like, oh my god, what if he says yes, what if he says yes? I was so excited and so nervous and so shaken up by this. I come downstairs to check to see what he says, and guess what he says? No, sorry. I was mortified. I actually started crying and I was like, why am I so ugly? Why doesn't this kid like me? I was completely like torn apart, and I had to face him the next day and do this awkward I totally didn't ask you out thing. But instead I just said, hey, okay, that's fine, let's just be friends. And I basically never talked to him after that, but I did stalk him every day on Facebook, that's for sure. So this is not the end of the story with Charlie. Not even close. The real part of the story comes soon. So if you guys aren't familiar, my best friend for 7 years is Jay. Well, me and Jay met in the 6th grade, and she knew about this crush I had on this kid, and we decided to start going to this church service on Wednesdays called Element. There's actually a YouTube channel where we had like really stupid videos. If you ever want to see what we used to look like in the beginning stages of our friendship, it's quite embarrassing and cringy. But we actually saw him there. We saw Charlie there. And I just thought, like, oh my god, this kid goes here. Like, the moment I would see him, I would just, like, my heart would drop. Like, I still really liked him, of course. I was very heartbroken that he rejected me. But I didn't know how to, like, just accept the no, move on, like someone else, stop being creepy. No, I didn't know how to stop being creepy, which is another reason why I'm not good at relationships. I either get really clingy or I'd have no feelings for you whatsoever, and if I do love you, then it's like forever, and then even after we break up we become good friends, and if you don't want to be good friends with me, then I'm very short I can't even talk, that I'm very like about it. It's very weird. I'm very weird with relationships. It's not good. It's not good at all. Well, I actually got Charlie's number when I messaged him on Facebook. He gave it to me. I think he gave it to me out of pity, to be honest with you. Well, I had it, and I started texting him, and I started saying some, like, really, really stupid things, like, you're so ugly. I was cyberbullying this kid with Jay. You're so ugly, ewy, ewy, ew. I can't play with you right now. Like, oh, your brother's so ugly. His brother's name was Kyle. I'm sorry, Jay. Not that Kyle. A different Kyle. That wasn't his real name, by the way. I'm making up names. And blah, blah, blah. And I just wouldn't stop at this. I kept doing this for like a week, I think, until he told me that he would tell his mom about me. And I was just thinking, this kid ain't gonna tell his mom. Then his mom starts texting me, and she's like, hey, I can find out where you live. You better stop texting this kid. And at the time, I just thought I didn't believe her at all. And then me and Jay had this like falling out in our friendship, which happened quite often. And we stopped being friends, and at the same time, I just got home from this road trip to Fredericksburg. So I come home, and I don't have a friend anymore, and I'm just chilling, like whatever. And I hear the doorbell ring. And I didn't think anything of this, because I was like, there's no way that it's him. Like, I didn't even think in my mind that this was gonna be this kid. Well, guess what? It was this kid. I want you to know how I felt when I was standing in this same room and I heard the voice of Charlie, his scrawny, prepubescent guy voice drop teen voice, in my room, down my steps to the living room with his mom. This is not what I imagined. When I was a 6th grader, I imagined that Charlie would come over to my house and it would be really cute and we would kiss and hold hands, and like that's the situation that I imagined if he would have ever come to my house. Not with his mom and not with my dad about to be extremely pissed at me in 0.5 seconds. I heard my name yelled across the house, get down here. And I was just thinking, this is it. This is it. I'm gonna die. Peace out. Bye. Well, I come downstairs and I'm just completely bright and happy, and I see Charlie and I just kind of look at him and I just give him a look like, thanks. Thank you for ruining me. Thank you. And he's just like standing in my like this weird window part of my living room. And I sit on the dining table that was there at the time, and I start hearing what they're saying, and they're like, oh, I have the text messages printed out. And they said they went to Jay's house first, and Jay, I don't know what happened in that situation, but Jay was like not that upset about anything, so I think it got directed towards me and that I was the blame for everything, which was true. I was completely out of my mind. Like, I was a terrible person. To this day, I regret a lot. And then she reads out the texts to my dad and says that he had to change his number because of the harassment that I was giving him. And then my dad starts screaming. I mean, I've never seen my dad more angry in my life. Surprisingly, I held in my composure very well. I think I just kind of like teleported to a different dimension while this was going on, because I didn't cry at all. I felt like screaming and crying, but I didn't cry until Charlie left, because I wasn't going to let Charlie see me at my weakest. So Charlie leaves after my dad starts literally cussing me out in front of his very Christian mother. And that's when I just burst into tears. Like, I am just crying, and I just like leave. I go to my room, and I just keep saying like, I'm gonna run away. Like, I'm gonna run away. You don't understand. Like, I'm done with life. At this point, if I had an ounce of popularity, it was gone. I still had my theater kid friends, and eventually me and Jay became friends again. But it was at this point that everybody knew something was very wrong with me, and I think that's why I ended up with no crush, people liking me. Nobody liked me. I had no one crushing on me, and I was just single. I was just single all 3 years of middle school. So that's my story about Charlie. And I think there was another part before this happened, because I do not remember what time during the year any of this happened, that I was texting him on his number, because this obviously was the old number, and he thought it was someone else. I was texting him, I said, hey, and we had like a normal conversation for a few days until I asked him, who do you think I am? And he said, Anna, and I was just like, oh my god, he was like flirting with me, and I was like, oh no, this kid thinks that I'm someone else. And when I told him who I really was, I started crying again. And let me tell you, like, I think at some point he dropped out of honors biology, and if it weren't for this fact, I would have just stopped going to school. Like, I embarrassed myself so much in middle school. This is just like one boy, okay? There was another boy, but that's a different story. I was never really good with dating, and going into high school and having people actually start liking me, even though I looked awful. I looked awful still. It was very weird, and I was terrible at dating again because I had no experience. But that's my story for the week. I hope you enjoyed. I hope the dogs didn't like annoy you or anything. They're just very social. I like them, you know. I was gonna say I kind of like them, but I do like them. They really like attention, like me. So I will see you next week on our mains. Goodbye.